Hi everyone, I think we're live on Facebook. We're going to start in a little bit. We're just going to wait for some folks to join us. But it's good to have you here, and thanks for joining on a Friday. I know it's probably been a long week for many folks. So we'll give it a second, just because it just turned 2 p.m. here on the East Coast. And let me just see here if there's a way to see attendance or visitors in the live stream. So yeah, I see that there's 5 viewers already. So maybe we'll wait until about 10 people join, and then we can kind of start with introductions and get started. Yeah, I see people in the chat. Thanks, Olga, for waving hello and acting as a moderator for today's event. Okay, so I see 9 viewers in the chat, so why don't we get started with introductions. Hi everyone, happy Friday. I'm Joyce. I'm the Marketing Communications Director here at Alight, formerly known as American Refugee Committee, and I have the pleasure of being here in our New York office with Christopher Nyamandi, Alight's Executive Director for the Europe Enterprise. I'm just going to share a little bit more about Christopher before we get started in today's conversation. Christopher has had a remarkable journey spanning over 25 years in the humanitarian sector, working in conflict zones like Sudan, South Sudan, Nigeria, and Afghanistan, and taking on key leadership roles in international organizations. Today, he's based in Warsaw, supporting displaced Ukrainians across communities in Poland as well as in Ukraine itself. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Joyce, for having me, and welcome everyone online.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you. It's very rare
pleasure
that we get a chance to have this conversation in person.
Indeed,
so.
Thank you.
How has New York been so far for you? You've been here for a week. How's it been?
It's been amazing. It's a very busy city. I've been attending a lot of side events on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. So It's been awesome. Enjoying burgers here, as well as meeting some colleagues and friends.
Great. For those of you that know New York a little bit, Christopher had his first Shake Shack burger today.
It's a good burger.
Yeah, it was a milestone, a New York milestone. So before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to give a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us from around the world and tuning in. Please feel free to drop a quick comment to say hello and let us know where you're joining from. And then, of course, don't forget to submit questions. So as we go through this chat, which will be about 20 minutes or so, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in, and our moderator will be able to pass them to me. So, Chris, you've had such an impressive background in the humanitarian sector over the past 25 years. And I guess I'm curious, what's been your driving inspiration for your career so far?
So the humanitarian field for me is very important because I myself was a beneficiary of humanitarian assistance. During my formative year, we received nutritional support in the form of beans. That was probably in our village one of the highlights for us at school. Some of the the thing that probably encouraged us a lot to go to school. We received educational materials. I remember that one of the things that I really treasured the most was a small blue backpack that was donated by the people of the world through UNICEF and other donors. And so that kind of assistance for me shaped the importance of expressing solidarity with others. And so it's an honor that I'm working in this industry, helping others also.
Well, we're very honored to have you in this industry and being a leader in our organization. I mean, just to give a little bit of background, I mean, I shared a little bit about the countries that you've worked in. Maybe, do you want to just share a little bit about where you grew up and kind of...
So I'm from Zimbabwe. I grew up in a small village just outside Harare, which is the capital of Zimbabwe. I worked in Zimbabwe for a few years, and then I went to Darfur, and really heartbreaking what's happening in Sudan right now, because I worked in Darfur in Yala for international organizations supporting IDPs there. I worked in South Sudan during the South Sudanese independence period, helping returnees who were coming from the north going back to South Sudan. It was a very hopeful moment during that time. I worked in Afghanistan also for a few years, and in fact I was in Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. And so I was involved in, supporting the health systems and building schools and clinics in Afghanistan. So I would say Afghanistan, which was my most recent deployment before I joined Alight, was really a remarkable experience for me. I benefited a lot from the generosity of the Afghan people, and I experienced the culture of Afghanistan, and I could see also the needs on the ground. And so it's a pleasure for me to be able to bring all those connecting experiences to the work that we do in Poland and in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, based on everything you've just shared, you've worked in kind of such high pressure, kind of intense moments within kind of conflict displacement and otherwise. And so, as you said, today you work supporting Ukrainians in both Poland as well as in Ukraine. And I know everyone who's joining today knows that it's been about 2.5 years, right, since the war began in that region. Can you just talk a little bit about how Alight's response has evolved over that period of time, and kind of, any changes you've seen?
So one of the things that I really like about Alight's work is that we walk alongside people during displacement. So our work evolved from just being there at the border between Poland and Ukraine within 24 hours of the Russia invasion, and helping people with luggage, connecting from train to train with train tickets for people who wanted to take the onward journey, people with children and the elderly who needed a hand as they were in displacement and in transit. That evolved into supporting people with accommodation. We were partnering with Airbnb.org. It was a remarkable program. Over 11,000 households benefited on that, including short-term accommodation of up to 30 days across Europe. A lot of them in Poland, but also some in Germany, some in as far as the UK, and many other countries across Europe. So there was a lot of solidarity during those early days, and I'm really grateful that the Ukrainian response has had this kind of generosity going to the Ukrainian people. Now we are helping people inside Poland, especially mothers with children or caring for old people, to integrate into the Polish labor market, reconfirming their qualifications, gaining new skills, language skills, as well as just helping them dealing with the traumatic experience that they have had, so that they can recover and begin to be engaged in livelihoods and educational activities within Poland. What has changed also, at least from the time I took over, is that we have also made a decision to really focus on providing assistance inside Ukraine. So we have an office fully fledged in Kyiv, and we are now reaching Sumy and Kharkiv. We work with our local partners. We have staff on the ground who are supporting with shelter rehabilitation for collective shelters, support for families who are evacuating from the front line. Sumy and Kharkiv are very close to the front line. So right now these are places where people are actually being displaced from, and we are there helping them, walking them along the journey.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for kind of sharing that overview. I think, so at Alight we do talk a lot about kind of going beyond basic needs and kind of walking with people along their entire journey, and so it's great to hear how you're helping Ukrainian families resettle in Poland or resettle in Ukraine if they chose to stay there as well. Another thing that we talk a lot about at Alight is co-creation. And so, it can kind of sometimes be a buzzword and people throw it around a lot, but what does co-creation mean to you? And how does it show up in your work across Ukraine and in Poland?
So I love co-creation because co-creation is a step further from localization. So sometimes we talk about localization, which is about shifting power to local organizations and local communities. Co-creation for me, it actually means that we are further embedding ourselves within the communities, listening deeply to their needs and listening deeply to their aspirations. We are giving them agency, the ability to decide, on what they would like to do, on what step they would like to take, and not just what step they would like to take, but how that step should be taken. And so it gives people dignity. And so I know that there's a lot of buzzwords in the humanitarian sector, and I hope that we graduate from just talking about localization, because localization, sometimes it becomes a technical word about, how much money is going to local communities through local organizations. With co-creation, it's incredibly more meaningful than that, because we are actually giving decision-making power to our communities. And I can give you a few examples
I would
of how
love
it's
that.
working.
I think examples would be great.
So when we talk to Ukrainians who are in Przemyśl, which is the border city between Poland and Ukraine, we said, what is important for you? And they said to us, what is important is for us to appreciate the generosity and solidarity of the Polish people, our Polish hosts here. And we said, how can we do that? And for me, I was like, where is this going to take us? And then they said, maybe the best way to do that is to have a big billboard, a big mural, which just says, we are grateful for your assistance, keep on supporting Ukraine, and stand with the Ukrainian people here in Poland. And that's something that we are working on, and hope to be sharing the results very soon. We, in Kharkiv, we spoke to communities who are in a collective site, and they told us in this collective shelter, old people and people with mobility issues are struggling to reach the 3rd floor and the 4th floor. Can you help us repair the escalator and the lift system and the handrails? And we asked them about how we could do that, how we could make sure that that is meaningful, how we could make sure that that is, it sparks joy, it allows people to reflect positively on the environment that they are in. And we are working with our local organization to do that in a meaningful way, using local contractors and changing the whole feeling of that collective shelter, because these collective shelters can be incredibly discouraging and dreary, sometimes lacking light, and sometimes even the kitchens are not, they are not the kitchen that you would like to go to.
Right.
So we are working on that, and so for me, I feel like co-creation has really helped us to listen to what the customers are saying to us, and then we respond to that, and we say, is this what you were expecting? Are you expecting some more, and how can we do better?
Yeah, those are great examples. Thank you. And I think I really love what you said, that it's not just asking what do you need or what do you want, but then how?
Yes.
How should we do this? How can we kind of bring it to life together? So thank you. And I'm excited to see the mural, pictures of the mural once that's available and up on the walls. I have more questions, but let's just kind of go to the chat for a quick second and see if there's anything that people in the audience have been asking. So, I see a question here from Yura, which asks about Project Rise. I'm just going to go through a couple of them here because there's a lot of questions for you, Chris. Wow. I also have my colleague, I should share, Giovanni here behind the scenes, and my colleague Olga, who is moderating. So Giovanni and Olga, if there's a question specifically that maybe has stood out to you, please let me know. Let's see. All right. Okay. Giovanni and Olga, while I ask you to kind of maybe curate some of the questions, let's see. Oh, I think okay. I might kind of go and ask some of the ones on my paper while they kind of go through all the comments in the chat. So we regularly hear about the conflict in the news and what's happening, but maybe what's something that people here that are listening in today would be surprised to hear? What are the things that we should be knowing about?
So we've been on a journey to listen to our customers on the ground together with our partners, including in Kharkiv and Sumy, like I said, because our commitment has always been, how can we do better, especially in places where the needs are really high. So you know that the war has put a lot of pressure on the energy infrastructure in Ukraine. We think that this is going to be one of the coldest winters, and so if these attacks continue, surely there's going to be households without electricity, without power, and cold this year. And in Kharkiv, for example, there's almost 500,000 IDPs within a city that had 1.8 million people before. So that's a huge, displacement population that is either living in collective centers or they are already integrated within the host communities. There's been an incredible amount of solidarity from the host communities themselves. So I think what we need to work on clearly is how can we help Ukrainians through the winter. And Alight, together with our partners, we are already looking into some of the options that we can put on the table, including some innovative solutions that will ensure that at least the winter is bearable for families.
Yeah, no, and I think, we talk about it as winterization sometimes internally at Alight, but I think that's also a testament to sometimes, you hear about the conflict in the news and you hear about the big headlines, but I like how you and your team are thinking about the everyday realities of what it means, right? And it's not just kind of the big projects and the big things, but kind of the little things. Do they have the right clothing? Do they have the right shoes? Do they have the right shelters to be in? So that's really helpful. Okay, so I have one question coming in from the chat that I will forward to you now, Chris. What is Alight doing to resettle Ukrainians? And does Alight work with any other organizations in Poland in addition to Airbnb? So you mentioned our amazing partnership with Airbnb.org. So if you could kind of speak to both those things.
Yeah, so we have, the work that we have done in Poland, in addition to the Airbnb, has also included supporting local civil society organizations who are close to the communities already, including refugee-led organizations who are doing really remarkable work. There is an organization that we partner with that is in Krakow, who are helping women from Ukraine get their driving certificates so that they can engage, in work. Maybe as Uber drivers, for example, or even for them to be able to commute around.
Have independence.
Yes.
Yeah.
We work with Salam Lab, which is helping both women and children with language classes, legal counseling, the confirmation of documents. You might think that this is a small issue, but actually it's a big issue, because if you're coming from Ukraine and you were already a medical practitioner in Ukraine, it doesn't mean that you come straight from Poland and you start practicing. You would have to go through the confirmation of your documents, and it's an incredibly difficult process to go through. So our staff are working along our customers, going through that together with our our partners such as Salam Lab and others. We work with a few other organizations across Poland as well as in Ukraine, and they are doing remarkable work. Some of the organizations are small and focus on particular communities. Some of the organizations focus with specific segments of communities. For example, the queer community, which is even more difficult when you are queer in your own country, and when you are also in displacement, it becomes more difficult. So we have partners with organizations who know how to engage with with different levels of communities. We help an organization that is supporting Roma communities. The Roma community across these countries has already been marginalized, and so we decided to work with organizations that already have the history and capacity to engage with the Roma community. So I'm quite proud of the work that our partners have been able to do. In terms of supporting people to live, we had a partnership that was helping people who wanted to come to the US. We received over 3,000 CVs. What we were trying to do was to match those CVs with employers here, and 44 households were able to relocate. Now, we have not been able to continue that project because the uptake was not as high as we had wished, and we didn't have funding to continue, but we know that those pathways are still open, And we have our colleagues here in the US. So if there are needs, if there are individuals who still want to pursue that, we can link them to our colleagues here at Alight in the US who can help them navigate through the process.
Okay, no, that's great to know. And I know that there's always programs that are evolving depending on needs and fundings, but great to know that if there's still interest from the community, that there are other ways in which we can kind of potentially redirect them.
Yeah.
Chris, I have so many questions that I could ask you, and somehow 20 minutes has already gone by. So I'm going to ask you maybe one more question and we'll wrap up. And really, I guess, this one's actually even not on the piece of paper that I have in front of me, but what's one thing that's maybe giving you hope or kind of giving you a sense of sparking joy for you? I think we're living in a very difficult time right now where there are a lot of hard news headlines to digest, and I'd love to wrap this up on maybe something that can be uplifting for everyone that's in the audience today.
So I think in this world right now, it's easy to be cynical, it's easy to be discouraged, and I know that sometimes we are so stressed about what we see on the news. You know, the news in Ukraine is heartbreaking, and sometimes I receive messages when airstrikes happen, when missile and drone attacks are happening, and what gives me great joy is the work that my staff are doing on the ground amidst all that. So even though you might be like, what's happening with you? Do you want to take a break? Do you want to rest a little bit because this has been really an incredible day? I have staff members who are like, no, we have to do something. We have to continue. We have to provide assistance as much as we can. We have to be better. We have to provide a better service. And so for me, that has been quite encouraging. Just seeing how staff are inventive, and just seeing how partners are open, and then generally just to say that the Ukrainians are a strong nation, a strong people, a strong-willed people, and so just being amongst the people who are, so positive and who are still saying, we need to continue to push, we need to provide assistance, we need to stand as a nation, for me also gives me a lot of great joy and comfort.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Good.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to wrap up here, and I know it wasn't enough time. We hold these Meet Alight events just to kind of give you a chance to meet some of the amazing people that work at Alight and get a kind of sneak peek behind the scenes of some of the work that's being done. So I hope you enjoy the upcoming weekend, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joyce, and thanks everyone.
Bye everyone.